Good morning, good evening, good night, good day, good afternoon, good time. Welcome back to the Lambda Log. Shout out Sandridge. We're back at it. Week 4, day 1, Monday, the 2nd of February. Oh, we're going through it now. Yeah, this is our last week of skills classes before next week when we will do our project for first half term, and then it's reading week already. We're zooming. So let's just jump right into it. We had our warm up, and I printed off some speeches that I wasn't super happy about for George's class, voice to text, but I wanted to have something. I'll get to it. So after warm up, we had voice to text with George, and yeah, just jump right into it. First, staff are not allowed to reply at night or over the weekend. So if we don't get responses at that time, that's why. It's just a policy. And then our speech is at most 3 minutes and needs to be at least 2.5. There was kind of some confusion if it was like it could be 2 minutes. And it needs to have a clear call to arms statement. If not, it's more of a TED Talk and not a political speech, which TED Talks are great. That's just not what we're doing. It needs to be more than motivational or informational. It should have a goal in mind. The call to arms should be near the end. It's best if it's repeated a few times, like if it's repeated at the beginning and the end, but it at least needs to be at the end. Some better ideas that I had, because I just wasn't finding things, are theater and arts in school and the importance of that, protecting children, if that's gun violence or internet protection or sex trafficking or whatever it might be. Oh, and then George gave me the idea to look up maybe the harm of lies in politics, because that was my original idea. And then maybe something to do with like AI pornography or the AI problems. And then another student might have some sources for me as well. Yeah. If you find like a 5-minute speech, you are able to cut it down, but you have to annotate it and justify your cuts. Annotate the whole speech and say, hey, I cut this part because it's just a tedious example or it's a story or something, whereas the bulk of the speech is here. And then we went one by one talking about what we have in our speeches, what we've chosen for our speeches, and then I'm reading out the call to action. So mine didn't really have that. So it needs to have a clear idea. When you find it, go through it with a fine-tooth comb to really find those rhetorical devices. And if there's a question during the speech, you can put in an echo. Like if it's like a conversational bit and it's like, someone asks, how are you? You're asking how I am? I'll tell you how I am. So you can kind of restate the question, but in the speaker's words kind of things. Yeah, then a couple of students were out, so I wanted to check in on them. People are taking their needed days off right now. We're missing people left and right. And then we started getting up to discuss to do Mark Antony's speech. And it's a good speech. Let me pull this up. So Brutus, so they've already killed Julius Caesar, right? And now and Brutus goes up and he's like, guys, it's okay. I loved Caesar too, but because I loved him, I loved our country more. And then, and he calls Caesar ambitious, and he's like, because of his ambition, we had to kill him for Rome. And then Mark Antony comes in and says, friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. The evil that men do lives after them. The good is oft interred with their bodies, so let it be with Caesar. The noble Brutus hath told you Caesar was ambitious. If it were so, it was a grievous fault, and grievously hath Caesar answered it. Here under leave of Brutus and the rest, for Brutus is an honorable man. So are they all honorable men. Come I to speak in Caesar's funeral. He was my friend, faithful and just to me. But Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honorable man. He hath brought many captives home to Rome, whose ransoms did the general coffers fill. Did this in Caesar seem ambitious? When that the poor have cried, Caesar hath wept. Ambition should be made of sterner stuff. Yet Brutus says he was ambitious. And Brutus is an honorable man. You all did see that on the Lupercal I thrice presented him a kingly crown, which he did thrice refuse. Was this ambition? Yet Brutus says he was ambitious, and sure, he is an honorable man. I speak not to disprove what Brutus spoke, but here I am to speak what I do know. You all did love him once, not without cause. What cause withhold you then to mourn for him? O judgment, thou art fled to brutish beasts, and men have lost their reason. Bear with me. My heart is in the coffin there with Caesar, and I must pause till it come back to me. That's good stuff. It's great because just the comparison. Brutus speaks in prose, not in verse, which is the language of wit and cunning and the mind. And Antony speaks in verse, which is the language of the heart. And and just great repetition of saying, well, Brutus says that Caesar was ambitious. And Brutus is an honorable man, right? Right? Is he? Right. So solid. So the first person got up, and our technique should ground us, right? Don't like whip your head around too much because that will like off balance you. Technique is to settle and center you. Really good. What did you discover? George asks, great question. It's a great teaching and leading question. You don't want to take up time in. He said, you don't want to take up time in my class? Take up time in my class. Time takes time. So sometimes we want to rush through things, but we're working. Let it work. He also said, you're doing great. Do you believe me? It's good to check in and to connect with your students that way. Don't try to get your speech up to performance speed. Find the specificity first, right? We're working these, so work them. Find the purpose in all the lines. You need to convince the people who you are, meaning Antony needs to. Hold your paper with your left hand. With your thumb, I've done this multiple times, I'm sure. With your thumb on the line that you're in. Find the person you're talking to. Come to the page. Not that I loved Caesar less, but that I loved Rome more. Had you rather Caesar was living and die all slaves? Right, whatever. Still a little congested. Frustrating, but I'm almost over it, I think. Also a caesura. A caesura is a full stop punctuation in the middle of a line, like a period, a question mark, or exclamation point. And in the lines, so let it be with Caesar, period, the noble Brutus, da 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 da. The character sometimes feels like they're going to be interrupted, so they continue on to the next thought. They're too excited and too emboldened to say the next line. Emotion rides on the vowels and sense rides on the consonants, right? So you can elongate and emphasize those according to your tactic. Even when the person is right next to you, you still need to reach the whole audience. So if you turn to talk to this person to your side, this person still needs to be getting it. That person. Excuse me. If you land on them, give it to them, or else they'll feel like you're like chopped liver. So if you land on someone, don't be like, oh, I just went to somebody next to them, and scan and go to another person. Whoever you land on, deliver that section to them. And then the next person got up and swivel your body to find your planted, steady posture, knees soft, sunk in weight, right? Kind of just grounded, right? You need to be ready if someone were going to try and tackle you. That's kind of the idea. Discover and see how things are looking, right? Look around, make sure nobody's going to tackle you, no one's going to throw a shoe at you, but be ready. And then find the frequency of the rabble and pitch over it or under it. Like if people are talking, because we practiced a lot with having the audience be like, blah, 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 what do you mean Caesar and Brutus and blah, blah, blah. And then friends, Roman countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. Right. And to like cut above that. And so if the rabble is like around here, you want to go above it, friends, or stronger is usually grounding it. Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears, right? And that's how you can grab their attention. Make sure the audience knows who he is in that one line. It's a little confusing because he says, he was my friend, faithful and just to me. But Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honorable man. He hath brought many captives home to Rome. That he is talking about Caesar, right? So you got to make sure with a gesture or something. And then really ask the questions. Hold the audience responsible for those answers. Not like that you want them to respond, but does this sound like ambition? A declarative statement tends to end downward in inflection and really chew the consonants, especially the S's. What does it do to you when you go OTT, over the top? Chewing the consonants makes you slow down and brings focus to those words, right? Consonants carry the meaning or sense. Another great teacher question. What was it like working today? Someone else got up? Don't pause on internal punctuation unless it's a full stop. And then even then it's good to power through to the end of the line, because a lot of that punctuation wasn't originally in the folio. It wasn't written by Shakespeare. It's just people who added them for grammatical sense. But we're reading this and looking at it as a script, not literature. Something that I don't know why I wrote this. It says, I'm not big on feeling, I'm big on thoughts and facts, in quotations. So like, because the next person who got up said how it didn't feel good, they didn't like what it felt. But it actually was much it was much better for the audience perspective. And then I had a couple questions. First, punctuation in the middle of the lines versus the end. Like, how do we know that the end punctuation is correct? And we just compare it with other texts. And then on the line, "O judgment, thou art fled to brutish beasts." There's an exclamation point after judgment, but it's not a full sentence. So I was like, do we treat that as a as a full stop? Because it's not really. And then that's up to artistic choice. And then squelching the emotion that wells up is great for rhetorical purposes, especially at the end where he says, my heart is in the coffin there with Caesar, and I must pause till it come back to me. It's natural for emotion to come there, but you don't want to show it. You're like, I need a minute. Land thoughts. Someone else got up. Use the caesura to bounce and then suspend. So the O judgment, thou art fled to brutish beasts, and men have their reason, bear with me. My heart is in the coffin there with Caesar, and I must pause till it come back to me. That was a good technique. You can switch focus to hold others accountable in a single question, but you may need to come back to the original person. So if you were to say, you all did see that on the Lupercal I thrice presented him a kingly crown, which he did thrice refuse. Was this ambition? No. Right? So you can extend that question to someone else. It's kind of interesting. It's a little tricky, so but it's a cool idea. Holding both people accountable to the question with your eyes and timing and intensity. Then someone else got up. A lot of people got up that I didn't specify, but the switch brings more emphasis and focus on the question. Which switch? That's a fun little thing. Then we worked on the emotional shifts. Oh, just that shift kind of at the end. Where is it? A lot of people said it feels like it comes in on O judgment. What cause withholds you then to mourn for him? Oh, judgment, thou art fled to brutish beasts. Thou art fled to brutish beasts. Haha. Thou art fled to brutish beasts, and men have lost their reason. Bear with me. My heart is in the coffin there with Caesar, and I must pause till it come back. Right? When they don't shut up, right? What can you do to change tactics? Pitch down. Get them, like, how do you get that? And then the last person got up, and if you have a choice to go to under voice or over voice, go over, go big or go home, right? If you want to be like, I must pause till it come back to me, and I must pause till it come back to me. Just lean into it, go for it. Great consonance and energy. Great emphasis on echoes, all and all, grievous. Grievous is how the Brits said it, and grievously. Our homework is to get our speeches, work on them in the common room, the park, the graveyard, in the circle. Do them for a public, see what it takes. Memorize it too, annotate it well, and then come back for break. Then we had lunch, and then we had mask. And mask was great. I was able to write a bit, but we'll see. We had an individual warm up. We caught up because it's been over a week. It's been like 2 weeks since we've met. We moved into space. We really focused on that undulation, right? Isolated the warm up. We warmed up our fingers, those joints, our wrists, our elbows, our shoulders, chest, our hips, our knees, our ankles, our feet. Oh, something I remembered. We did this little thing that was you go heel, pad, toe, heel, pad, toe, heel, pad, toe, heel, pad, toe. And that was just like to bum, bum, bum. We did it with both feet. We did hips. We did this great thing that was this halfway, and then I'll just do it. So like if you're working from your chest, your chest is your center. You can go half back, bum 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 bum. And so like if you're a character, you'd be like, who, me? Oh. It's like, who, me? No. And then you can do that with just that double time, which is just a cool thing to do as well. We did sides as well, and uh, with the halftime and the in between. Um, we played with movement and bringing sound to it. So, oh, we're leading from our nose or from our chest or from our knees. And then we had somebody that was done a little later. My notes are just out of order, but that's okay. I'm just gonna read what I have. So we had somebody get up, and they had a task to enter, see the chair, want to go to the chair, want no want yeah want to go to the chair, go to the chair, want to sit, notice the audience. And so, well, no, I don't think even notice of the audience was the end. That's just what naturally happened when people were done. They're like, hello. Um, so so we first did natural realism, right? This is what like movies are, and there's a fourth wall, and it's all just very normal. And so we the person went in, did it lovely, and there was these beats, and the way it was separated was really good to break those down. So there's a moment where he got up, and instead of sitting down immediately, he stopped and like touched the chair before he sat in it to kind of show that wanting. And so breaking up those beats were great. And then Bertolt Brecht was known for his technique on theater was all about teaching an audience um, as entertaining them. And so a task that he had his students do and his actors was to say what they were doing as they did it. So we had the same task, but then you go in. I'm entering. I see a chair. I want to move to the chair. I'm walking towards the chair. I see the chair. I want to sit down. I'm sitting down. And even like cranking it up to whatever you're thinking and experiencing, say that as well. It's like I'm walking to the chair. I'm looking down. I'm wondering why I'm looking down. I see my feet. I'm aware of the audience. I hear laughter. I want to do this. And so you kind of just give commentary on your whole experience. And Brecht would say in rehearsal, that's what I just said. And then also in this activity, if you have mistakes, you name them as well. It's like, I forgot to do that. That's okay. I'll keep going. I'll do this. I'll do that. Um, and then we did a clown mask version where you say what you're doing and then you share it with the audience. So I enter. I entered. I noticed a chair. I noticed a chair. I'm walking towards the chair. I'm walking towards the chair. Right? And you're just the audience is complicit with you, so you're bringing them in as like a partner, and so you're doing this and you're sharing this with them, right? You want to create the complicity with the audience. I come in as for yourself, and then I come in as one for the audience, right? One for the action, one for the audience. um oh, and before we did that, see, all out of order, but we embody different elements, right? Water, air, fire, and clay, right? We played with being clay. So like, how does water move? Very similar to what we've been doing in embodiment class, but so then when we were clay, we moved through the clay, and then we became clay. And how much resistance is clay, right? And then Michaela would go around and like actually move our arms. And it's like, well, that's too much steel. You're giving too much resistance, or that, oh, that's too much water. It's too flowy. It's too easy. So you want to find that resistance. And then and then we paired up, and my pair and I worked together, and one of us was a clay model, and I went first, and then she moved me. Kind of a thing. And it wasn't about just making interesting poses, but it was really feeling that. And then they stepped away and we moved ourselves as if we were still being moved, but we had that resistance to us. And it wasn't trying to be like robotic because that's the like tempo they were moving us in, but it was just to capture that resistance. And then we walked the room like that. And we saw how we experienced. And then we switched. Um, then we also walked from different undulations. So our knees first, and the reminder about how you move. You turn, you see where you want to go. You lean into it. You change positions. You shift. You give a little setback, and then you go leading with whatever it is. So if you're leading with your head, for example, you would see it, lean, turn your body to it, and then go, and so on and so forth with all of it. We did knees, pelvis, chest, and face, and we saw how that would create characters. And then we talk like that, and we're like, yeah, mm, and whatever, right? And then we played Shiba. Did I? We also all did the chair exercise as well, and we broke up into pairs for that. And then we did it through all of the steps. We did it natural realism. We did it with like Brechtian. We did it clowny, and then we did it with a mask as well. And it was fun to see how it evolved and changed. And then we played Shiba, adding gibberish for dialects. So it's just like you're gonna do gibberish in the style of French. It's like how would a 1-year-old speak French? Un, deux, trois, c'est un gérant. It's just like oh, you know. And then how they speak Spanish. Para tu, paraleli, indoli, halsil, whatever. And then Italian, and then Swedish and Swiss French and German and Russian. Lebovin, Leschlich, Leborshkirik, things like that. But whenever we said Sheba, bam, boing, those were all said with our gibberish dialects. And then um, we took our big group and we broke into two smaller groups and we tried to get up to Gumby, a 10. We got up to I think an 8. Was that what we did? We got close. But we would always lose a little bit on our mistakes, the 3 repeated mistakes. And then we had 2 people, myself included, kind of demonstrate how to do it with just 2 people. And you look out to the audience and you have your masks on. And when doing mask, there's always one mask that's fully facing the audience. Because when you're doing mask, you want the mask to stand as itself, and then the body is doing everything else. So kind of lock in on the face, but then the body kind of supports that. And so my partner and I got up, and so you have to look at one person, and then they go, and they're looking straight at the audience. They go Sheba, but that's to you. So then you receive it, and so you're looking at them. You turn, and then you want to like switch at the same time, so that there's always someone looking at the audience. You never leave the audience alone. And then you go, bam, Sheba, boing, or whatever. And then we did that with the different language gibberish as well. And then we got in pairs and practiced. And then we got in 2 pairs of pairs to do it with each other and to show it. So we had an audience. It was so fun. It was a lot. It was awesome. Enjoyed it thoroughly. Then we had a 30-minute break where I wrote down some notes. and I tried to figure out how to do the performances, because the other class they're having performances as well, and so I want to go see them, but I can't with all my time. It's a whole thing. But allow. So then we had embodiment, and we played with expansion and not compression. I wrote this down. It's a different con word. No, what is it? I just had it yesterday because I realized I wrote it wrong. Compress you expand, contraction. And we worked on some psychological gestures. So we did a check-in. How are we doing physically, mentally, emotionally? And then we passed the ball, yes and no. And then we stepped into the space. I think we did that before the ball. And then we did these different so we're on the circle and we were doing these kind of psychological, oh, that's too far down, these psychological gestures of being in the space. And so we all went around, and there's a push. So it's kind of like a lunge this way. Wow. And then you can do that up 45-degree angles, down 45-degree angles. You can do it back, and you're aiming for 45. And then you can do it to the side, And those, so we imagine that inside of our body is a second inner body, and it's like a spiritual body or a metaphysical body, whatever you want to think of it. And we imagine that body doing it first, and then our physical body follows it, right? And so that body, I imagine it doing that front lunge, and then I follow it. And then we can do that in different styles. We can do it staccato, but then we hold, it's like we do a staccato, then we take a screenshot. And we hold it as our spiritual body is continuing forward, and we pull it back. Or we can do it very kind of legato, but then we imagine it reaching beyond us. And we acted like we were really tired, and we sat down. And then within that feeling, she was like, okay, get up. And we're like, oh, okay, we'll get up. We got up, and then she's like, now do that. You're really tired, and imagine your inner body gets up, and then you follow it, and it's easier. And there's psychological like studies on this, how like athletes mentally go through what they're going to do, and it makes it easier. And your brain can't always process the difference between practice, like mental practice and physical practice. Yeah. And then where is this? Yeah, and then we walked the space, and we kind of felt different poles of forces. So what does it feel like to have this forward push, and this feeling of that you're going from your back through your front, and that as you're walking, you're actually going back in time and back in your life. And then we got with our scene partners, and we passed the ball, and we said, that was this week, right? Yeah, we said a word. Yeah, we said a word. Yes, no, I don't know. A line from the play, and we just saw how that affected us, and then we changed, and then we did it with our front. Our energy was radiating from our front, and then we were up and front and up, and then we felt like our shoulders were just being lifted, not our shoulders, but just our shirt, and we didn't raise our shoulders, but it was just that that lift, and how does that change how we respond and feel? And then there's also down and back, and how does that change how you're feeling? And then down, your feet are getting pulled to the center of the earth, and then how does that make you feel? And then we would have those conversations with our partners, and then we addressed this kind of inner body during the section first and followed it physically. Um, we had those lunges. Oh, then we expanded as much as we could and imagined our body going beyond ourselves. And then we shrunk down. And then and we compressed. And we did this with different qualities, with staccato, with legato, um, but a held staccato, which is like, it seems counterintuitive, but it makes sense. And then we did this contraction in the same way. And we addressed the text and I don't know what this says. And we evaluated how we felt during it. And we discussed and how we felt during it and after the exercise. So this I think is one of the psychological gestures as well as a push. But so your arms and your legs are spread out as much like a star position. And this has this confidence and this feeling. And then and then we went down into a contraction, but just to give us room. Okay. And then how does that make you feel? And how does it extend? And then we went into the contraction. We were trying to get as small as possible. Yeah, and that was the gist of it. So how does these psychological gestures and how does this affect our feelings? And that was the day. Then I came home and got some groceries, and life is good. Anyway, I hope you have a wonderful time, day, life, future. Hope all is well. I hope I get uncongested soon because tomorrow I'm singing. No more giants fighting wars. Da 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 da. Our children and our wives. No more.